I went to a painting event with my nieces at an art supply store where you got to use acrylic paints and you got a free canvas to make your own painting. I had no idea prepared for the painting and I guess my brain just defaulted to painting a dragon. The lack of preparation, time, my own tools and supplies and my process made me think of what I actually need to make an acrylic painting. So I'll recreate and hopefully improve on this painting. Turns out I don't have the exact same size canvas. I have some smaller postcard sizes, 10 by 15 centimeters, and some bigger 18 by 24 centimeter ones. And I went for the bigger one. In the painting event, I just grabbed a canvas board and a brush, squeezed some paints onto a paper plate and started painting. So the first thing we can improve is having some kind of an idea of what to paint beforehand, finding some reference images and making a sketch. I often do a sketch on paper and then transfer it to canvas, but to make this more simple, let's just do a colored pencil sketch directly on the canvas. Think about the sizing and composition. The original canvas was so small I could have done something more close-up to be able to add more detail. Now, since the canvas is a little bigger, I'm gonna do the full dragon. And I'm making sure it's centered on the canvas instead of squished to the left like in the OG painting. At the event, I started with the dragon and did the background and especially the texture as an afterthought. So the creature looks a little separated from the background, and if that's what you're going for, then fine, but I'm going to start with painting the background this time and make sure I feel all of it, and I can even paint over the lines of the sketch a little bit and then be more careful when painting the dragon over it to get cleaner edges. You can use other things to paint and create marks than just paintbrushes. I was going for some kind of texture in the background with a paintbrush, but this time I decided to use a sponge to create clouds instead of just a random texture. At the event, I grabbed whatever paint colors I gravitated towards, and that might go together. But it's a good idea to have some kind of a color scheme in mind beforehand, although with acrylics you can always change your mind and paint over what you already painted. I think most of the paints they offered were Liquitex acrylic basics, and there were some colors I don't have, like fluorescent pink, so the new painting won't have the exact same color scheme. Unless you're going for a bright neon painting, you can mute some of the colors by adding a bit of the opposite color, or white, or black, or ochre to dull them down, and then let some details or some areas shine by saving the bright saturated colors for them. And this is one way you can add contrast between the background and the foreground. The background could be more muted and the foreground more vibrant. But I'm also trying to keep the background lighter and paint the dragon a bit darker to make it stand out better. I did unintentionally smudge the colors together at the event because I couldn't fully clean the brush between colors since I didn't have water at first. I was just using a paper towel and a wet towel to wipe off the paint. It's good to have a few different sizes and shapes of brushes for covering larger areas fast and getting in smaller details where necessary. And softer and harder brushes for different types of painting surfaces. The OG painting looks a little rough, there's harsh blending and some white canvas spots showing through where I couldn't get the canvas fully covered. At first I was using a brush that was too big and the wrong shape for some of the things I was painting. And I was dragging the paint on the canvas feeling like it needed a bit of water. We can cover the canvas better with a harder brush, but let's also dilute the paint to make it glide better and get softer blending between colors. If your acrylic paint is not fluid enough, you can add a bit of water by dipping the tip of the brush in water and then into the paint. The other option is using acrylic mediums for thinning the paint, but it's not necessary unless you're looking for a specific effect, like slowing down the drying time or making the paint very transparent for glazing. But water's fine for this. I'm shading and highlighting areas by mixing a slightly darker or lighter shade and blending them together on the canvas while both are still wet. Some of the limitations were definitely self-inflicted. They probably had some pencils or colored pencils around I could have used for sketching. We later found more brushes, so it was possible to use different sizes and shapes, and we also eventually found the water jars. And I could have pulled up some kind of a reference from my phone. I was worried during the ugly stage that the new painting was actually turning out worse. The original does have some kind of a spontaneous charm about it, but I definitely preferred the new one once it was finished. I wanted to include the metallic gold details, but use them more sparingly. Just a bit of glimmer on the body and the tail instead of those big brush strokes covering larger areas. I've painted 3 of these now with just slightly different anatomy, but otherwise pretty much the same, so the next time I paint a dragon it's going to have to be a different pose at least. I'm turning my sketches into coloring pages, and this will be one of the next ones available on my Patreon. But how about the other painting supplies and mediums I use? I made a video about all my acrylic painting supplies and how I use them. See you there!